Code switching is something I've done all my life, and you do this naturally. You will change little bits about your speech, how you act. So rather than showing my true self, you start off by switching into the behaviour of someone else to be more acceptable to them. It is exhausting. It is mentally exhausting. People who are second generation immigrants have done that literally since birth. I've never been actually ashamed of who I am, my culture, but subconsciously I've adapted things so that I'm more acceptable to people. I would never do that now, but that takes confidence and a lot of personal growth. I'm Tasnim, a second generation Bangladeshi living in the UK. As one of 4 million British Asians in the UK and one of 500,000 British Bangladeshis in the UK, we are very much British, we are very much Bangladeshi. And that best of both cultures is really what is making up the modern face of Britain. I was born and raised in Britain. Born in Southmead Hospital, just down the road, as Bristolian as you get. My parents were so nervous about us losing touch with our culture that they taught us Bengali from birth. We liked being ourselves, we liked our food, we liked our Asian clothes and culture. So why, when we had our school parties, did we always say, can we have crisps and jelly and trifle and fairy cakes? But we were changing how we presented ourselves to our school friends. We didn't want to risk it. We as children didn't want to risk it and take that chance. That then ruins your social standing in your small school forever. I grew up in the 80s, it was post late 70s, early 80s recession. Nobody had much money in Bristol. So the fact you've got school photos every year, you'd wear your best clothes. So all the English kids would come in with their Christmas clothes that they'd got. But my mum would do what all the other parents did. You give your kids to school on that day in their best clothes. Or there's a difference. Our Eid clothes were always Asian clothes. It was always like a salwar kameez, some of the most beautiful outfits. And we would always feel so embarrassed, even at the age of 5, 6, 7, we realised that it was emotional labour, having to explain to someone, what is this? Why are you wearing it? When do you wear it? Where did you get it from? And it got to a certain point where we'd say to my parents, can we just not wear our Eid clothes this year for the pictures? And my mum would be like, I'm just going to go to your dad and daddy in Bangladesh. These are the only photos they will have of you all year. You're wearing your Eid clothes. And there was only 1 year where we didn't wear our Asian clothes. And my mum bought us matching sweaters from Children's World and matching skirts and matching shirts. The photos look nice, but honestly, the Asian clothes ones look way better. I grew up in the 80s and racism was everywhere and it was accepted. Got a school in Fulton, very typical of any school in Bristol. The only brown people, I think, was me and my sister, my older sister, that was it. Everybody else was white. In Britain, like we have now, every Christmas you have Christmas plays, and they're not always based on the nativity. So all the other little girls were, like they were fairies or elves or whatever, so they had their costumes. I'm a brown squirrel. Okay. I was the only brown squirrel in the whole class. How the hell did you get a brown squirrel in a Christmas play? I do not know. It's winter, it's Britain, it's cold. I was given a brown furry leotard and a mask. I asked if I could have some tights or leggings because all the other girls had either flesh-coloured tights or white tights or leggings. The response was, but you don't need leggings because you're brown anyway. That sort of racism, at the age of 5, I didn't understand it was racism. Even if I did, who could I tell? That is literally the teacher telling me, you don't need leggings because your skin is brown anyway, you're already a squirrel colour. So they basically gave me the part of a squirrel because I was brown. How is a squirrel even in a Christmas play anyway? They literally thought, we don't want to have a brown elf or a brown fairy, we have to make a brown character for her so she doesn't stick out. But in doing that, they made me stick out more, and I was literally stood on that stage shivering when everybody else was covered with leggings and whatever else. I was 5 years old. That is mental. Absolutely mental. Back in those days, in the 80s, everybody on your street knew everybody. We lived on Filton Avenue, a huge main road, but my mum was always so good about doing extra things to make the neighbours comfortable with us, which you shouldn't have to do, but she did, and it meant that we were fully accepted into that community. In our little safe community bubble, we were not even targets for any racial incidents at all. My parents had experienced it so many other places, but never in our little community. Until a new family moved in. You know, they had a lot of social troubles, a lot of family troubles, family members in jail. They had obviously come from another area where it was very common to go packy bashing. That is not a phrase I use lightly. Often, like National Front would literally just go looking for brown people to beat up, terrorise, threaten, intimidate, and they found us. They didn't like that there's this brown family, they've got a nicely kept house, my dad had a brand new car. It was quite flash because not many people had brand new cars. They didn't see how hard my parents worked for that. They didn't see any of that. It was just, why did they have it and we don't? They had taken our jobs. My dad, basically, he was a restaurant manager, a restaurant that him and his brothers built up, a restaurant that did not exist before they created it. They then created employment for other people working in that restaurant. They were not taking any of your jobs, thank you very much. But the attitude was, why did they have that stuff and we don't? So we were targeted. We knew it was them, the police knew it was them, but unless you physically see them with a brick, you can't do anything. One night we actually started having bricks through the windows, like the living window. My dad used to work evenings because he worked in the restaurant. These neighbours, these people, they knew that because they'd see him leave, they'd see the car was gone, and so they'd know that it was just mum and the kids at home. That's when they would target. It was terrifying for my mum because my little sister was awake then, so brick comes crashing through the window, glass everywhere. My mum grabs my sister and literally throws her into the passage away from any of that glass because she wasn't sure, is it only a brick? Could it be a bottle with fire? Are more bricks going to come through? Just that terror. And my little sister screamed so loud it woke me and my older sister up from our deep, deep sleep. And my mum just sat there like in tears because for her, it wasn't the glass, it wasn't the breaking, it wasn't that was upset, it was my child was there. They could have killed her. A 3-year-old child, if that had hit her. There was a lot of intimidation I didn't know about that my parents just hid from us. We only know the big things because we saw the broken glass. We saw my dad take his car to the garage to get it fixed, the window fixed and whatever. We saw the police come and board up the window while the glass people came. So there's so many other incidents that we don't know about. So the police set up a secret hidden camera. Unfortunately, it didn't catch anything and nothing happened for a while, so we started feeling comfortable. So the police came and disconnected it. A couple of days after it's disconnected, our house was burgled. Probably by those same people. And that's the time when my parents were like, this is crazy, we just have to leave. We just don't feel safe anymore, we have to move. And they'd been looking to move anyway, because at the time, we were going through a lot of family turmoil. My younger sister was chronically ill, and she was in a specialist hospital in Birmingham. So my parents were tag teaming, my mum would be in Birmingham with my sister in the hospital. And then my mum would literally drive down the middle of the night, wash things up, get a change of clothes, give us a hug and a kiss, and then drive back to Birmingham from the hospital. It got to a certain point where my mum couldn't keep coming backwards and forwards, so she said, look, let's just move to Birmingham for a few months to find somewhere that was more suitable for my sister, because she had a lot of medical equipment she needed and stuff. Yeah, so we enrolled in schools there, we made friends there, we kind of started a life there, knowing it was tempting. But the weirdest thing for us was, we were not the only brown kids in the school. There were loads of them. It was weird, I kind of marvelled at the fact that there were brown people I don't feel like I'm on my own. It was so different being in Birmingham and having just other brown kids. For once, we felt accepted. But that was only for 4 months, and then we moved back to Bristol. But for that period of time, even no matter what hardships we were going through with being at the hospital all the time, the effect was minimised by the fact that we had our people around us who understood our culture, understood culturally why we do certain things. We didn't have to explain anything. It was just so refreshing. This was probably the third and final Eid we had on the Nasima. And so we went up to the hospital. We spent a lot of time in that hospital as kids, and pictures at the hospital. We just tried to get as much time with her as we could, especially on special occasions. And this little girl, I think she died shortly after Nasima. They had similar kind of liver issues. Yeah, they just kind of bonded. Most people wouldn't notice, but the nurses there, they were with the children all the time, even the parents around. So whenever they took them out to play, they'd take them together. At the time we had a health visitor. Her name's Miriam. I remember her name after all these years. She became Auntie Miriam because she saw us so often. Her main purpose was basically to assess our home and just make sure that our home was continuously the right environment for my sister to be in. She ended up using that time to really counsel and coach my mum and just be a listening ear, be a friend. So she looked around, she really got to know us as a family. She went the extra mile, did a bit of research, and thought, how can I help this family who are struggling? And she was like, these girls are quite smart. They're getting through the work really quickly. They're at advanced level. Let's see what we can do about that. And so she did a bit of research into scholarship. We were poor kids from Filton. If we got into a good school, we wouldn't be able to afford the uniform for a start. So she firstly found out about the different private schools around in Bristol. So just like that, we got into one of the best private schools in the country. Full fees paid. We even had uniform allowance, because when you've got a coat that is £70 and you've got a skirt that's £40 and sweaters that are £30, this was the early 90s, nobody had that kind of money. So as well as paying the fees, they paid for uniform allowance as well. And it was a chance that 3 poor brown girls from Filton could never have had without Miriam, Auntie Miriam, doing a bit of legwork, doing some research and thinking, how can I improve the life of this family? Culturally, there was a big shift. Socially, a huge shift, because we were the poor kids in a rich school, and we knew it and we felt it. We were treated by the other children mostly as just others. Some of the kids that we went to school with had, they had ponies, swimming pools. Being second generation immigrants, we knew that whatever we did, we actually had to work twice as hard to even get noticed, to get recognised, to get respected for being smart kids or being hardworking. We had that work ethic instilled in us just by seeing our parents, because my dad, he grew up with his 7 brothers and sisters and his 2 parents, so that's 8 kids, 2 parents, in a 1-room clay hut in Bangladesh. My grandparents sent him to live, it was a proper Fresh Prince of Bel-Air business. They sent him to live with my grandfather's sister, because she'd married into a wealthier family. And then when the eldest brothers of the family moved to England, of course my dad came along too. He was always so grateful for that opportunity. He worked the hardest he could. So we had that instilled in us. We had to work the hardest just to get by. I am now 38. I struggled to get jobs. I interviewed at so many different places, and then I started temping. As I was temping, I proved myself as being bloody good. I worked at Deloitte for about 10 years, earned my way up through various promotions, got my dream of working in a big four company in London, doing what I wanted, being valued, working for FTSE 100 companies. I was living the dream, right? Then I got divorced and moved back to Bristol temporarily. I had 2 children. I had 10 years experience behind me at this point. I noticed that yes, I was applying for some jobs directly, not getting an interview, applying with a blind CV and getting straight in there. If it wasn't for agencies by coincidence bringing me those same vacancies, I would never know that I've been discriminated against so many times. So my stance now is, bring me that interview. And when you want me, when you offer me the job, that is when I'm saying, thank you very much for the offer, I am not taking it, and this is why. You discriminated against me, I don't want to work for a company like you. They won't change their behaviour until they have a candidate that they know they would have missed out on because of discrimination. It's something I can only do now because I've proven my worth in the market. As a 21-year-old coming out of university, I could never have done that. So how many more 21-year-olds are being discriminated on? Am I being discriminated against because I'm a hijabi woman? Am I being discriminated against because I'm Muslim, because I'm brown, because I'm Asian? Or is it because I'm working class? Discrimination is discrimination. Whatever you're discriminating against me for is wrong, and I'm going to call them out on it. But you know what? That 21-year-old kid doesn't have the power for that. So I'm kind of fighting for that kid.